Hey everybody, Steve Bourie here from the Jackpot Gents. My son Matt Bourie is the other half of the Jackpot Gents,
How's it
and
going, everybody?
we were formerly known as American Casino Guide, but we are now the Jackpot Gents. And today we make a lot of videos about going into casinos and playing slot machines, and people always wonder, what's good advice for playing slot machines. So we have an expert with us today, Josh O'Connell from KnowYourSlots.com. Hi, Josh. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's great to be back with you.
Good. It's great to be with you. Now, you are one of the foremost experts on slot machines, and we wanted to go over our topic today is 6 great tips for low limit slot players. And I think as we go into this, I think you wanted to explain to people that they're not necessarily restricted to low limit players, but tell us your advice on that.
Yeah, if you're a higher limit player, I don't want you to feel like you have to tune out of this one. These tips I think are good for any casino player, but many times lower limit players, because they're restricted on budget, every little extra bit of helps in terms of their ability to get the most out of a casino visit. And so accordingly, obviously these tips are designed to really help them with that, but other players can still benefit from it as well.
All right, so let's just, I guess, hop right into this. Number one on your list, is this the most important? I didn't know if these were ordered in importantness or not, but that is match your bet to your bankroll, which I guess is very, very important, especially if you're on a lower budget.
Yeah, I think this one's the most important because let's say you're going into the casino with $100 or $200. You certainly are going to be limited to your budget. I think lower limit players have a sense of this more so in general as it is, but if you're going to a $5 spin machine with $100, that's 20 spins theoretically you can have to make something happen. And that's not a lot when it comes to a slot machine when the sort of overall goal of how it's going to pay out happens over hundreds of thousands of spins. So obviously,
I'm pretty sure I've gone 20 in a row losing. Like I think you could probably go through $100 without a single winning spin on a $5 machine.
Absolutely. And so sometimes if you're a Googler and you like to look up this information more detailed, there's something called risk of ruin, like how many bets, like if you're playing a game like a slot or blackjack or video poker, do you need to have as part of your bankroll to reduce the risk of running out of money in an hour or 2 hours? And so with slots, that's in the hundreds of spins. And so if you're going in with a smaller bankroll, you should definitely make sure that your bets have room to ride out those tough periods because, law of averages says you're going to get to a bonus at some point. So, you just need to make sure that you have the wherewithal to get there. So if you're betting lower, you'll just have more shots at that opportunity to get a good win or a bonus versus betting high and trying to cross your fingers for sort of like a Hail Mary gigantic win on a $5 bet, for instance.
Now, so is there like a magic? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dad.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, is there like a magic number you have here? Like say you go in with a $200 budget. What do you think would be the max amount that you'd want to be betting per spin?
So here's an example of a rule of thumb that I usually use. So if you're planning for a 4 hours of play, which is sort of the number you hear a lot of people say, oh, you got to play for 4 hours or whatever, 500 times your bet is a good for your bankroll is a good. So if at $200 you divide that by 50, you get about 40 cents a spin. Now, if you're not going to be there for 4 hours, you could certainly bet higher, or maybe you bet higher and cross your fingers, right? It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to run out of money. It just means the chances of running out of money increase. And you can also adjust your bets over time. If you start with $1 spin and you go through $50 and you're finding it's going quick, you could always lower your bet at that point, right? So being flexible on the casino floor is always good advice too, and being willing to just sort of monitor how you're doing and make sure you have enough money to have fun while you're there.
All right, before we go on to number 2, I would just like to, if you could tell us, how do you define a low limit player?
So I think it's a couple things. One is min bet players are easily defined, I think, as low limit players on a penny machine, even a nickel machine sometimes nowadays because they're not that high. I think a higher limit player is definitely someone who feels comfortable at $5 and up. I sort of see a mid-range sort of between like 150 and $4 a lot of times. And so I usually consider a lower limit player probably betting under $1.50 a spin to like $1 or less per spin.
All right, when Matt and I go in, usually we're well, on video poker, we play more, but on slot machines, usually we're around $2 to $3, maybe $2 to $4, I would say. What would you agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, occasionally we'll go up to $5, but very, very rare.
So does that make us what, mid-level players?
I would put you in the mid-level. That probably would have been higher level of any player like a couple of years ago, but now some of these machines go up to $8 to $10 a spin. So I think that sort of has twisted the ranges a little bit at this point.
What was that crazy machine with the goose we saw the other day? Wasn't it $25 a spin max or something?
Oh yeah, well, there's crazy machines.
It was a penny machine that you could go. It was like $22.50 or $25 a spin. It was insane.
All right, so number 2 on the list you came up with is look for games with line count choices. So can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so there's been a shift over time where the bet panels have gotten simpler, and you just sort of see, 50 credits, 100 credits, 150 credits, and that's what you're betting. Older machines in particular, but there are some newer machines that have it too, would sometimes have 2 rows. The first row would be the number of lines that you're playing, and then the second one would be your bet multiplier. So let's say you had the first row would be like 1, 10, 20, 30, 50. That would be the number of lines that you were playing, and each line would usually cost 1 credit. So if you played 10 lines, you would be playing 10 credits. And then of course you could multiply by 1, 2, 3 to make your total bet. The reason why this is important is because on machines where you get this choice, if you have a 50 line machine, it would let you play 30 lines and save some money. So you're not playing all of the pay lines, but you are able to lower your bet. So the flip side is it might be a little bit tougher to win because there's less chances to win because you have less lines, but you're also spending, 40% less per spin. So that gets you a lot more mileage when you're able to control that. A great example of a game that still kind of allows this in most cases is Stinkin' Rich, which has 100 lines, which is quite a few, but some players love to lower it down to like 70 or 80. So they're still getting quite a few lines, a lot of chances to get bonuses and line hits, but they're not spending the full 100 credits or $1 per spin on penny denomination.
That's the exact machine I was going to say. I was going to say the 2, Stinkin' Rich and Bombay, which is a clone of Stinkin' Rich. But one thing I want to say that if you are going to be lowering your line bet, that's very important, is you want to look in the machine and make sure that if you're lowering the number of lines you're betting, you're still qualified for the bonus rounds. Because I know back in the day, older machines, a lot of times you weren't qualified for the bonus round unless you were betting max lines, not necessarily max credits.
Yep.
Stinkin' Rich is not the case. You just need the 3 whatever it is, and it just so happens that you get 5 free spins, I think, per line that it counts. So
per pay line. So when you're reducing the pay lines, you're probably not going to get as many free spins, but then when you're in the bonus, you get all 100 lines. So you actually benefit from the full 100 line payout during the free spins. So
I didn't know that.
So the other thing too is like some games, they are scatters for the bonus symbol. That's probably a good one to look for. So it doesn't have to line up on a line because reducing your lines would reduce your opportunity, but just getting 3 scattered bonus symbols would give you the bonus round. And it usually triggers with the same number of lines that you were betting. So if you're betting 30 lines, the bonus will pay out with 30 lines. Stinkin' Rich is a weird one. So the number of free games is less, but the lines are all there. So.
Now, someone had sent in a question. They said they wanted us to do a video on slot machines where you don't have to make a max bet to be eligible for the jackpot. Now, do you know what percentage of machines where you, well, I know Quick Hit, if you want to get those progressive jackpots on top, you have to make the max bet. But is that the case in most machines?
Most modern machines are kind of leaning towards it's the odds of winning a progressive are equivalent to the bet size. So like if you bet more, your chances are higher, but Lightning Link, you can do a 50-cent spin and win that grand jackpot. So it seems like that Link model really pushed forward the progressives at any level model. Where you'll see the exceptions are usually the wide area progressives, like the 6-figure ones on your Wheel of Fortunes or your your Monopolies and that kind of thing, where you have to
Willy
be betting
Wonkas
and usually those are like $3 and higher, right? So that's not necessarily a max bet, but you have to bet enough to qualify. But a lot of the ones where they're not like that big wide area progressive, usually, except with the exception of games like Quick Hit, you have access to those progressives at just about any level.
Now, number 3, the next one we're going to move on to is using a Players Club card. Now, we're not saying always use the Players Club card because there are very few cases when you probably don't want to use your Players Club card. But what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, so I actually know some low limit players that for a while didn't bother with a player's card because they thought, well, I don't bet enough, so what is that going to give me? And the reality is that regardless of how much you bet, you're going to qualify for something. So, for instance, sometimes just having the player's card at all qualifies you for room discounts or gift shop discounts. Some casinos give you that just for being registered. So right off the bat, you qualify for discounts. And then based on your play, there's a few things that you can qualify for. One is comp dollars. Usually, you earn comp dollars as you play, and so those can then be used for shopping or dining or paying down your hotel bill or whatever the case may be, and sometimes free play depending on the casino, and then the second is offers. And so based on your play, a casino will calculate what that means for what they're looking to bring in, and they'll make an offer to have you come back and try to see you play like that again. And you might not qualify for much free play. Maybe it's $10 or $20, but if your budget's $100 or $200, that could be a 10%, 20% boost on your bankroll. That's not insignificant, and that can just give you more time on the casino floor to have a good time. And so that's why you want to play with your casino card pretty much all the time. I agree with you. There's those exceptions. I just went to the casino a few weeks ago for dinner and to exchange a shirt, and I wasn't going to do any gambling. So my player's card was not swiped anywhere on the property because I don't want them to know I'm there, because I'm not gambling today. But if you're going to be gambling your normal amount, you definitely want to make sure that player's card is on whenever you're playing.
Now, there's a casino near us. It was interesting. My wife and I went there. We didn't play much, and we didn't earn any benefits. They didn't send us, free play or gifts or, dining offers or anything. But what they did was they sent a rebate. So the next time we go there, if we lose $20, you can go to the kiosk, swipe your card, and they'll give you back the $20. So it was interesting that our level wasn't high enough, and we just went there to kill some time, have some fun. Our level wasn't high enough to generate offers, but it did generate something decent in the sense that the next time we go there, if we lose $20, they'll give it right back to you. So in a sense, it sort of was free play. Yeah,
I mean, and I also, casinos are just getting increasingly creative over time with how they can structure these things. And so they kind of find something that works for just about everyone. And, if you're in a busier market where there's a lot of casinos, they tend to also be more aggressive because they're hoping that you're taking play from like casino A and going to casino B, right? So if they see that there's an opportunity to bring someone else in, they might be very generous, especially if it's your first time visiting. So I do think it's important to make sure you have that card and play with it.
All right, number 4 on your list is time your casino trips, and which Matt and I, we always suggest that play during promotional periods. So can you give us some background on that?
Yeah, so I have a couple of examples here where I think this can be really important for a lower limit player. So one is many casinos do drawings at various points. And so the drawing will basically allow you to have the opportunity to win against other people in the casino, a prize. It could be cash, it could be a car, it could be a trip, all sorts of different things. But they tend to do drawings in different ways. And many times I notice the same casinos doing both styles of drawing. So this gives you an opportunity to decide when it's the right time to go in. So one, for instance, would be a hot seat drawing. So basically anybody who's playing at a given window of time will be eligible for the hot seat drawing and being drawn for that prize. The second option is a sort of earn entries based on your play over a window of time, and then you activate your entries on the drawing day. The latter is harder for lower limit players to win because you're playing against people with bigger budgets who can just simply rack up those entries faster. So you might end up with 10 entries while someone who's got a higher budget ends up with thousands of entries. And so, your odds of winning are just going to be proportionally more challenging. Whereas with a hot seat drawing, it's literally one seat, one entry. And so, if you're in a casino with 500 slots, the worst odds you have is 1 in 500. But many times some of those machines will be empty, right? So when you're a lower limit player, you can just be smart about when you go to the casino, which drawings you target if you're interested in that sort of thing, because that might improve your chances of being a winner.
Yeah, that's the entry-based drawings. We are on our website, AmericanCasinoGuidebook.com. We have people can leave reviews, and that was one of the reviews that people would always leave, is they would complain and be like, "Oh, these drawings are all fixed. The same people are winning all the time." But like you said, if you're a low-limit player and you're going in there and you're betting $100 for your entire bankroll, of course you're going to have less drawings than the high roller that's sitting there and is betting $100 a spin. Like that person's earning the same amount of entries with one press of the button than you're earning in your entire day. So of course those are always going to be skewed towards the very, very high rollers. They're not always going to win, but they do have a much greater chance of winning, like you said. So that's one thing that maybe people don't 100% realize, and they think that it's like, oh yeah, it's fixed. I always see that same guy winning. But that's not the case. It's not fixed. I guess it's skewed in their favor, because when they're betting tens of thousands of dollars a day and you're betting a few $100s a day, of course they're going to have a better chance of winning. So the hot seats, I definitely like the hot seats. I've won a few of them. I've never won one of the entry-based ones, but I've won the hot seat drawings. So
I'll never forget the day that I was with my mom at a casino in New Mexico a number of years ago, and she's always been a very low limit player, and she always said I was the lucky one. But one day she won a $500 hot seat, and she was getting paged, and they have you give you a window of time to go to the desk, and she thought I was paging her to go home. So she's like, all right, we're gonna go. I'm like, no, this is not what's happening. I had to drag her to the Players Club desk. She didn't believe that she won $500 because she just never wins that. And it took to getting to the cashier, and they're counting out, and she looked down, she's like, I won this? She couldn't believe it. And so it's just fun to see that kind of stuff happen, because she was one of those 20-cent players. She would just sit, have her beer at the bar, and just play, and that was a relaxing evening for her. So it was sort of fun to see that happen.
All right, so more on promotional possibilities. Playing during promotional events is comp multiplier days.
Absolutely. So the other thing I encourage everybody to do, and low limit players in particular, is you can time your visit based on when they're doing a comp multiplier or tier multiplier. I would say comp multiplier makes more sense for a lower limit player because, again, tiers can be very difficult to achieve with a lower budget unless you're going a lot, which some players do. But the comp multipliers let you take that same budget and get more comp dollars for use on property, which can be like, a free dinner. It could be, again, extra free play or whatever the case may be. And so you're just making your money work a little bit harder during those windows of time because you have access to sort of a better opportunity. For instance, I have an MGM casino that's within a pretty short drive, about an hour or so from where I live. And that was sort of my low bet casino. I would take lower budgets there because I would still tend to get a decent offer, even though I wasn't betting as much as I was at some of the other local casinos. And when they would do the comp multipliers, I would go up there because those comps would also be usable in Vegas. So I would be able to build up a comp balance and then go to Las Vegas, and that would just take the edge off because, as you know, a lot of restaurants are marked up. You have a sort of a Vegas Strip penalty when you go out there. And so it was great to have sort of that extra budget for meals and so forth as a result of my local play. So that's another thing that you can do as a player, is you can sort of leverage these connections that casinos have. But if you do it on a comp multiplier day, again, you're just going to build it up that much faster.
Now, before we go on to number 5 here, I wanted to touch a little more on this promotional period. One thing that Matt and I suggest, well, if you're a husband and a wife and you each get your own Players Club cards, rather than both playing on both cards, playing on both cards at the same time, we suggest that you alternate. One day you play, one visit you play on your wife's card. The next day you play the visit on your husband's card. So that you're not cutting your play in half, you're going to get more benefits. Because let's say you both earn $50, say you have a $100 Theo on each card. So if you just use one card and put all the play on one card, then you have a $200 Theo. So theoretically, you should be getting more benefits back from the casino by playing on the one card rather than playing on both cards at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. And also the same goes if you're sort of an imbalanced set of players, right? So like my partner, for instance, rarely plays, but maybe he'll throw $20 in a game that catches his eye. He just does it on my card because there's not much he's going to get out of a $20 play on his card, but he's adding to my overall score, which will then, improve the offers that I'm getting for the casino or the cruise ship or whatever the case may be. So I agree. Consolidating play onto one card does help you overall. And I've seen players that have made that switch and been heavily rewarded because, it's when you go from 100 to 200, for instance, of Theo, it's not necessarily just a doubling of the offer because you only use one room, right? So it's not like they're going to go from one free room to 2 free rooms. So they might be able to bump up something else and be more generous with the food or the free play because you've already, you're going to get the same amount of value out of the room. And so sometimes that can really work in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, number 5, we're going to move on to the next one, which I think is very good, is set realistic goals.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm sorry, but Matt always wants to win. At least I say, Matt, well, what's our cash out point here?
And I'm always saying
$1,000.
$1,000.
Well, usually it's $10,000. You know, we
Yeah,
we
well,
got $300 in the machine. They'll say $10,000.
well,
But,
most you realize I am joking when I say that, right?
of course, but not everyone realizes you're joking. Matt.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, I see it all the time in like the slot forums and so forth. I've been playing slots for 30 years and I've never got a hand pay. So today I'm going into the casino to get a hand pay. Well, what's your budget? $100. Well, let's talk about that, right? So I think for me, part of it is just being realistic. And so what I always do is sort of ask people to think about it from the multiple of your win. So like if you're betting 20 cents a spin and you win $1, that's 5 times your bet. If you win $10, that's 50 times your bet, and so forth, right? A hand pay, because it's a flat, fixed, arbitrary amount that hasn't changed in like 50 years, it's 2,400 times a 50-cent bet, for instance. So like, is that a realistic win? Do you see people winning 2,400 times their bet all the time in a casino?
No.
Is a 50 or 100 times win a reasonable thing to shoot for? I would say so. They happen, you know, with enough frequency that you could certainly see one of those happen during a visit to a casino, and certainly more if you get really lucky. But like, you know, when I see people setting realistic goals, it's like, I'm only going to put $20 into this machine. And if the $20 is gone, I'm going to get up and move on, instead of putting the whole 100 in and just, I'm going to play for a bonus, because you don't know when that bonus is going to come, for instance. So, you know, setting realistic goals can be, you know, your goals for the casino visit. It can be your goal for a given machine, but setting goals that can happen versus goals that are really, you know, a far reach will just reduce the risk that you're going to play, get frustrated. Oh, the casino just takes all my money, right? Like you want to go in with a healthy attitude. You want to go in with an upbeat attitude, so that way you do have fun. And so I think that's part of it, is setting those realistic goals.
Now, what would you consider a realistic goal? Let's say you have a $200 bankroll. You have $200 that you're willing to lose in the casino in a day. What would you think would be a good realistic goal for them to cash out if they got up at a certain point?
So when I've gone into a casino with $200 bankroll, which I've done quite a few times in my life, I'll break them into $10, $20 bills. So that gives me 10 machines to start with. And so with each machine, I'll go for a double, a bonus, or nothing, right? So if I double my money, it's an instant cash out. If I get a bonus, usually it's an instant cash out. And if I run out of money, clearly there's nothing to cash out. But what I find has been nice about that is that then you kind of look at the tickets, you know, maybe you'll have 4 winning tickets out of 10. You can then put those through the ticket machine. You'll have another set of 20s, and you can decide what you want to do now. And so it sort of sets sort of what I call thinking points. One of the things that can be challenging if you're a gambler is you can get emotional, and emotional gambling can lead to making emotional decisions, you know, sort of rash on the fly decisions. Like, I'm losing, so I'm gonna double my bet, I'm gonna martingale this, or whatever the case may be, to try to win my money back. And, you know, sometimes you just need that extra beat, that little thinking, that decision point that sort of lets you take a moment, cool off if you're a little frustrated, you know, think about what's happening and make a better decision for yourself. And so that way, you know, you're just being responsible for your money, and you know, because it is still your money until you've spent it. So that's what I mean. And so, like, you know, you can sometimes what I'll do is, if I double, I'm still having fun. All right, so I went to $40, so now I'll play it to either 60 or 20. So it's double or nothing again, but it's just the next $20, right? So you can make those decisions, say I'll play further, but it just encourages you to sort of think about it at given points and make sure that you're happy with where you are.
And like you, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say how you and I do it, Matt. You know, you get, let's say you put in $500, you get up to 700, and say, okay, well, we'll cash out if we get to 800, or cash out if we get to 700. So you go up high or down low, and you set a cash out point.
And what I was going to say is, like you said, you know, you gotta set these realistic goals, because at the end of the day, you're going to the casino to have fun, or you should be going to the casino to have fun. And, you know, like you said, if you're going in with $100 and you're like, I'm playing till I get a hand pay, and you lose your whole $100 and you leave, and, you know, you're upset because you set an unrealistic goal and you didn't meet it, you know, that kind of eliminates the whole idea. Like, you're going to the casino to have fun. Like, you don't want to go and end up leaving in a worse mood than when you got there. You know, that's not how people should be looking at gambling. So I think that's
and I will say, you know, when people go in with $100, sometimes they'll get the $300, but they didn't get the hand pay, so they keep playing, and then they leave with zero, and that's when they really start kicking themselves. It's like, oh, if I just known when to pull the plug. You know, sometimes people will do things like get winner's bank, so then they're forcing themselves to go home with money. I think that's actually pretty healthy too. If you don't trust yourself, have a tool that'll help you. So that way you
what
can,
is that? I'm not familiar with that.
so it's like a
Winner's bank?
little, it's like a little pocket safe. You have a key, you leave the key at home or somewhere where you can't get to it easily. And then it's got a slot and it can hold like maybe a dozen bills. And so like if you get a win, you put the win in there and you're going to bring it home because you can't access it.
Okay, gotcha.
So
gotcha,
and there's
gotcha.
different types of devices like this that are out there for gamblers. But I think, you know, if you're one of those people who, you know, you'll just keep going, I think that's pretty good. And you know, the method that Steve was sort of describing where you stop, like you pick new stop points. I constantly do that. Like if I get ahead, all right, my new stop point is this, because again, it forces that thought, that decision. Okay, am I going to keep going or am I going to cash out? One other tip that you made me think of, Steve, by saying that some people don't trust themselves with big tickets because it's easy to keep going or to, you know, you get sucked into the actual game and you don't pay attention to the number. So that's why I recommended breaking it down into $20 bills, because then you know once the 20 is gone, it's time for a decision. And so I know people who purposely, I used to wonder why people would race over to the ticket breaking machine and break down a large ticket. But as I was talking to players over time, I realized it's actually a money management system. And I thought it was really clever.
Okay. All right. And now we're up to our last tip here, which is focus on a single casino.
Yeah. And I think this one it's pretty similar to the recommendation you made, Steve, about sort of consolidating play on one card, which is this, especially if you're in a larger market where there's a lot of casinos. It might seem tempting to go bounce around. Hey, I've got free play at 4 casinos, so let's go play $20 at casino 1 and then $20 at casino 2. But what you're doing is you're thinly spreading out your budget. And if you're a lower limit player, that could be particularly challenging, because if you don't spend enough to even qualify, like Steve was talking about, maybe you won't get like any free play at all. Maybe it'll be a play to win or something like that, or nothing. Whereas if you put all of your play into one casino per day, the daily rule is really what's important here, then you can increase your presence at a single casino for that day and see the offers improve accordingly. Now, the exception to this is markets like Las Vegas, where you might have a bunch of casinos owned by a single owner. If you spread your play across that owner, they still add it all up because you're in the same place, and they want you, frankly, to be spending as much time in their casinos as possible. So they want to reward you bouncing around. So like if you go to MGM Grand and then you go to like, you know, Park MGM, all those MGM casinos, that would all count together in that case. But if you then start jumping around to non-MGM casinos, now you're going to start to spread your play out again. So what I recommend is, especially if you're going on a multi-day trip, pick a casino per day that you want to play at, concentrate your play at that casino, put all of your budget to work at that casino. So that way they'll have something that they can send you for the next visit. You'll have something you can take advantage of.
All right. I think players also need to experiment with different players clubs, because some are better than others for your ultimate goals. Like if I'm going to Vegas, I want to get a players club that's generous with free rooms. You know, and we have local casino, you know, play at the Seminole Hard Rock. It's a mile from my house. I don't really care about a free room there. I care about, you know, they're going to send me show tickets or free play or dining you know, comps. So each club tends to work in a little different way. So again, if you're a tourist going to Vegas, you probably want to concentrate in the casino that's going to give you free rooms. If you're a local, you don't care about the free rooms. You want to get the benefits, free play and things like that.
Oh yeah, and that's something I talk about with comps all the time. Everybody has different goals for what they want out of comps, and everybody has, you know, every casino has a different sort of perspective on it and does it differently. So, you know, you definitely, part of the benefit of trying different casinos on different days is, you know, if you went in with $100 in each casino, you could see what each casino gives you and figure out which one you like the most, and maybe that's the one you want to play at more often. The other thing too is there are more national chains, as it were, of casinos than there were in the past. You know, there was sort of MGM and Caesars as the big two, but, you know, My Choice has been around for a while. That's, you know, Penn National. Bally's has sort of bought up a bunch of casinos, and so now they're building a national network. And Hard Rock is rolling out Unity.
Going to say that. Yeah, Unity's coming out soon.
So, you know, that does open more doors. So like, for instance, players in Atlantic City have a lot more options from a national perspective than they did before, because there's a multiple people that own casinos there and elsewhere. Golden Nugget's a smaller example, but they've got casinos in a bunch of markets too. So, you know, if that's something that matters to you, where you like to play in different parts of the country, that could matter in terms of who you play at locally too.
All
Yeah,
right.
and I was just gonna add in there that like you were saying, stick to one casino for a day, but you could even do the same thing like on a month-to-month basis. Like, say your gambling budget for a month is $500, you could like go up in scale a little bit to just only use one casino for the entire month. And because if you just go day to day from one casino to the other, it might not be the best way to test to see what kind of place has the better benefits. So you might want to scale it up a bit. That would be my only thought there, is if you're trying to test to see like, if one casino is better for dining, if another casino is better for free play, maybe don't try it on a day-to-day basis. Try to scale it up and spend a whole month at one casino versus splitting up the month at different casinos. Might be the only one thing I want to add there.
Yeah, and frankly, this is starting to turn into a bonus tip, because if we build upon that, if you're a lower limit player, but in part you're a lower limit player because you're going to the casino so often, you could consider consolidating your budget into less trips with the same amount of money. So let's say you're playing $100 a week. Now let's say you go $200 twice a month. The casino is going to look at you as a $200 per visit player instead of $100 per visit player, because you're showing up in their mind with twice the budget, even though you're going half as often, because the casino looks at how often you're using things too, right? So like, again, that hotel room, if you're using that hotel room twice a month versus once a week, you're costing the casino less money, frankly, because you're not there as often. And so that can lead to better offers as a result. So if you're budget limited because of that, that's something to play with as well, because maybe you'll find the offers are much more in your favor, and maybe that's the best way to go.
All right. Well, this was interesting. Even though we geared it towards lower limit slot players, it applies to anyone going to a casino, actually. So we appreciate your time. And Josh, if people want to get more information about you, where would they go to do that?
Absolutely. So you can visit knowyourslots.com, which is my website. I post new and updated content every single day. I also maintain social media profiles on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram with daily content. Know Your Slots is all one word.
Okay. Thanks very much, Matt.
Thank you, Josh. Take it easy. Good talking to you.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and best wishes for good luck in the casinos.